Hello there, welcome to 3Spoonies. In this episode, we're discussing spoonies in the news. I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony,
And I'm Joe from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Claire from Sparkle's Gift Boutique.
and together we're 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. So, we're discussing all sorts of things that are occurring in the news about disabled people at the moment.
Yeah, so this has been bothering me all weekend. At the moment, there's a big thing that the government is going to cut people's benefits, or rather put a freeze on people's benefits, or stop certain conditions being allowed for things like PIP. And it's all very toxic and fearmongery, but as the last government decided they would leak information, see how it was perceived, and then decided if they were going to go ahead with it. I'm hoping the backlash will mean that they don't go ahead with it, because if they do, that will put a lot of people in a lot of trouble. However, nothing's set in stone yet. Have you two seen what's happening in the news?
I Googled a bit this morning. Well, obviously having you talk about it, and because I'm an avid person, I avoid the news because there's so much doom and gloom around. So if there's ever something going on, I'm like, right, give me an update on what's happening, as you have. Um, yeah, I have very strong opinions. I think everyone does. It's one of those hard ones to navigate at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's been done very provocatively. I think it's been done to wind up people from all edges of the spectrums to have opinions. And at the moment, like you said, nothing's set in stone. People have already gone back on things and changed things. And yeah, it feels slightly like disabled people are being used as pawns in it all, to be honest. It's like there wasn't enough outrage bait already with asylum seekers, so now we have to pick on disabled people as well, because otherwise people will run out of outrage for the week, and then where would we be?
They might actually turn on the people who's actually the problem.
Like the
Uh,
people in charge. Just
yeah,
saying.
but yeah, what's been said in the news is they're going to stop like lifting PIP with inflation. They're going to take off a bunch of conditions that you can get it and make it harder to get with. And considering Claire recently had to fight for her PIP back, and me and Karen are going through the process of getting PIP and have helped other people go through that process, we know that's not an easy process to start with. The original Tory government coalition thing that changed it already made it ridiculously hard to get.
It was hard for me to get when I first got it, what, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
It was hard then, and it's quite funny because Dylan's I actually got a letter through on Saturday for Dylan's to be like, his PIP will stay the same for the next 3 years. It should stay the same. He's autistic. It's not going to get better. He's never going to be able to work. He's got high functioning autism. He's going to need someone to look after him for the rest of his life.
Mm.
So, it's on that side of it, I'm very much like, well, if it's already hard enough, and like he's had to go through things like phone assessments and stuff like that, and it's like he's almost non-verbal. He doesn't understand your questions. Like it makes no sense. Why make it so hard for people? I
Yeah.
get it. Some people abuse the system and kind of will make things.
0.02% of PIP applicants.
Yeah, but the thing is, people know how hard it is to get, so
You
they're
see,
not going to abuse it because you need to prove it.
my question would be, how many people don't apply to start with because they know how hard it is?
Or
Or,
drop out on the way.
yeah, or drop out on the many times they're told no.
Well, look at when I had to appeal my one from August that I've literally just got back now. And the amount of times I said to you two, like, I really can't be bothered with trying to appeal this again and again. Like, I was so ready to just drop it and went down the road of, do I go and find as other people tell me, to get a normal job? And then my husband's like, but you can't do it because you wouldn't even last the trial period. And I'm like, oh yeah. So you feel like you're being beaten from all angles.
Yeah.
And some people don't have support at all. Like there are people who can't read the forms in the first place.
Yeah.
And, what the support that used to be there isn't always available. Like agencies that used to help have been shut down or have lost funding sometimes. That and just getting your head around the forms. It can be difficult if you've got a lack of energy, if you're not great at understanding forms, if you're not quite sure what the question's asking, because the questions are asking very specific things, but that's not what the question says. So there's lots of websites that are set up purely to explain what the questions actually are and what you need to answer rather than what it says. And those are two different things, and they really shouldn't be in terms of clarity, if nothing else.
No, but we know the entire process is designed to knock people out so they don't have to get benefits,
Yeah,
especially the assessment.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I had DLA. This was quite a while ago, and I got it for 3 years with repetitive strain. And obviously, I'd have to have let them know if it got better, and it turned out it didn't, and it wasn't repetitive strain. But live and learn. But 3 years was the standard. Now there are conditions where it would have been like, yeah, that's a permanent condition. It's like 3 years if you're lucky. But I
Yeah,
know people who have to have yearly reviews, despite the fact the process of appealing makes them so ill they can't do anything else.
it's emotionally stressful, and that emotional, when you've got a disability already, emotional stress is so draining and tiring. Like, it's going to make you feel worse. I had
It
a
is.
friend who is wheelchair bound. He can't walk properly. He has epileptic fits all the time. And I mean, this was going back a little bit, but it's a similar kind of thing. They changed something, and he had to start going to the job centre to kind of see someone to be like, yeah, you can't do the whole work thing before they said, here's the work assessment you don't need to have. And they tried to tell him that he had to go and get a job. And it's like, one, at that time, who was going to hire him? He's not fit for work. He's having that many seizures a day. How can you put that much extra stress? Because that could potentially lead to more seizures because of all the
Yeah.
stress you're putting his body on.
Well,
It's
it's
such back.
also the pressure's from the wrong side. The pressure shouldn't be on individual disabled people to get a job. It should be on employers to be flexible and to make accommodations. There are some people who can't work, and absolutely fair enough. If you can't work, you can't. That's, for medical professionals and you to decide, not for randos, to be honest, anyway. But there are people who potentially could work part-time or flexibly, and those positions don't really exist. Like there's 0 hour contracts, but that's not the same as having some level of security that you have control over. It's like 70% of autistic people are unemployed, and that's ridiculous in this day and age. And sometimes that's spun into a positive that, it's entrepreneurial spirit. And it's like, well, no, it's the fact people couldn't find jobs in the first place. So,
Yeah.
people have made the best of it and fair play to them, but that's not a positive. That's because help isn't always there, and the Equalities Act can be thoroughly toothless at times.
But they
Yeah.
say 70% of our autistic people are unemployed. It's like, how many of them are actually employable?
Mm.
You
And
know,
even if it's like 20-30%, the jobs just aren't there. And then employers are not going to make accommodations for them unless they absolutely have to. Not when we've already got a load of people out of work that could take those jobs much easier.
they don't want to.
Yeah. Or they're in the wrong places or whatever reason, because now everybody doesn't want to work, like have the people work from home anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, but you've just narrowed your field of vision of who can work where. And it is ridiculous because, yeah, some people could work part-time, but like me, I don't have regular hours because I don't know what regular hours I could work. No employer is going to accommodate that or my afternoon nap. So yeah, the only option was to work for myself. And yeah, there are those that will take that leap because they don't have a choice. But yeah, the pressure is that they're going to help people, encourage disabled people into work when they can. But it just doesn't work that way.
I think that
No.
they'll also put a lot of pressure on them to try and find work.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's what job is suitable. Because I know for all three of us, it would be impossible to go out in the world and find a job that would fit around the needs we have as disabled business owners.
Yeah, not a chance. Well, it's also the value of people extends beyond do they have a job or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, maybe if we valued more some of those other things, that if someone going to work is making them so ill they can't do anything else, if taking that pressure off means they're able to get involved in their communities in other ways and just, exist as a human being, which is something that gets forgotten in this. It's like, well, why should I have to go to work when you don't? And it's like, well, because you can go to work and good for you for not being ill. That's a positive. Hooray.
Yeah. I mean, you also got to think about the people who are temporarily disabled because they're waiting for treatment of something on the millions long waiting list on the NHS. Who, if you treated them, particularly if you treated them quickly, they could get back to work. Instead, you're making them wait, possibly making it worse and possibly making them permanently disabled.
Well, that and it's sort of seen like, oh, it's a money sink, giving people money so they exist. And it's like, no, the concept of transfer earnings has been along for a very, very long time. If people are able to spend money at their local shop or online, that's money that's going into the economy. It doesn't disappear into greedy, disabled people's mattresses.
it's
It's
not going
like,
into like some black hole void somewhere that's never to be seen again.
No,
yeah, there's things when services are described as loss making, it's like they're not making a loss, they're just not there to make a profit. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
it's like PIP is not means tested and it's there to cover the extra, some of the extra costs of being disabled, which we all know is expensive. So that money's not being saved or hoarded. It's for whatever that disabled person needs, as well as if they're working or not. And we all know it's a pittance to start with.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you could live off PIP, is it? I mean, that's not what it's designed for anyway, but it's depending what you need, you may still have to be saving up for ages for something that in the past possibly would have been provided by the council or something. If you need something like a lift or a hoist, that can be incredibly expensive, and that's not something you're going to be able to quickly afford.
Right. And all the social services and everything that used to take care of disabled people are just not there anymore, most of them. There's a huge waiting list.
Oh, don't
And
get me started on that one.
um, and it's like all these things would bring your benefits bill down if they were still there, as would not incentivizing whatever company you've outsourced to kick people off, go through mandatory reconsideration and tribunal. That's all needs to be paid for. And then most of it gets backdated anyway because 70% win at tribunal. So just pay them to start with. And
But why not just have a set people from a medical field do these assessments instead of someone else who doesn't know you, who inputs information on your forms? Personal experience there, just saying. Not everyone's awful. Have these people that know about your condition, know what you're going through, have a general idea so that they can assess you properly. It would
Or
save
better yet,
so,
have medical professionals who know you able to do it or potentially flag.
yeah.
which is how it used to be when it was DLA.
Mm.
But they decided that doctors were lying for people.
Yeah, because it's so in their benefit to lie to for us.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we just did 15 MRI scans for the lol.
Yeah.
They're cheap, right?
So now they pay someone to lie for the government instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to sort of come on and say, like, until anything's actually decided, don't worry about it. If they do decide to freeze PIP and everything and do what they're doing, I'd imagine there's going to be hell to pay and a lot of protests.
Yeah, also there's things going on already, like Scope have put a petition out, various other people have as well. And there has been a huge response. And if you go into the comments section on sort of news websites and things, it seems like everyone's awful, everyone hates disabled people, everyone thinks we're scroungers. It's just that person shouting the loudest. It's not necessarily everyone at all. And I think it's time for a bit of solidarity as well. Let's be supporting each other to the extent that you can with your energy. I'm not telling other people how they should spend their energy if they don't have it. But if you are able to, do check in on people, make sure your friends are okay, and also be prepared to accept help from others.
There's so much when people talk about mental health, they say, like, be kind. You don't know what someone's going through. Why does it not extend always to people with disabilities? Because it's the same thing. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Mm.
A little bit of empathy and understanding. Doesn't cost anything.
Also, I think there's a degree with health things where people like to believe, well, I'm a good person, so I'm going to stay healthy and I do yoga and I eat organic apples, so therefore I can't get ill because I'm a good person. And I think genuinely that belief keeps some people going because they can't believe that things could just randomly happen, injuries, illnesses. None
Yeah.
of us had that planned.
Oh
No,
God, no. I've done everything I can to kind of help myself as much as I can with mine. And I mean, I was like that before, but it's like, well, if I was doing all of that, I wouldn't be ill in the first place. So it doesn't really work. It's a great
no,
idea, live a healthy lifestyle, look after yourself, and you won't get ill. It doesn't work that way.
no. You could be ill at any point. You could have an accident at any point. You can become disabled, and then guess what? Now you're the scrounger. But it's just to help you live, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, talking about all this, one of the things that I have seen over the weekend and last week is the absolutely disgusting rhetoric online, which has come from years of certain media outlets villainising disabled people as scroungers and fakers. As we say, 0.02% of PIP is fraud. I'd imagine there's a lot more from the DWP side.
Oh yeah,
I did see things at the weekend of they're having issues. People have issues with people getting a new car every 3 years on Motability, but disabled people need a reliable car. Sometimes they need heavily modified ones or ones that are big enough to put a wheelchair in or other adaptations. And it's not a bought car, it's a leased car, and you give up your PIP money for that.
you give up your PIP money for that car. It also allows for modifications to be done. I know someone that had a car, he was in a wheelchair, and he could literally just get into the driver's seat. He had no legs, but the car was modified so that he could drive without needing to have his legs. So he could still be mobile and get around, which I thought was really impressive, and it kind of blew my mind a bit.
That is
Um, yeah, only person I've ever seen with a mobility car like it. Never seen one again. But then I don't know that many people with no legs. You know, it's a thing. But no, motability is it is there to benefit you. It's not just for cars. It can be for your mobility aids like your scooters and I can't remember. And you know what? I'm gonna look at my little leaflet that I actually got this morning because I can't remember what else it's for. Cars, wheelchairs, scooters, powered wheelchairs, and adaptations.
Yeah,
So it covers quite a fair bit
yeah.
to help
Anything that
people.
allows disabled people to get mobile, because as much as certain members of the public would like us all to stay in the house, never leave, and just sit here and do nothing because we're scroungers, people need to leave the house. That helps people, if they can work, to work, or
Yeah,
actually just get outside.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is that someone needs. It's like someone might say, well, why do you need a gym membership? And it's like, because that allows someone possibly to rehabilitate, to build up their strength, to be able to do other things. And it's like, well, I don't get a free gym membership. And it's like, you don't need it. Like, if your leg's not broken, you don't get a free cast because why would you?
yeah.
Yeah. I've also seen someone be absolutely demonized because they use their PIP for a cleaner and a gardener because they're in a wheelchair and they need to be able to get through their garden. And, they don't really go out. So they would like to sit in a nice garden and not go, oh God, it's overgrown. The neighbours are going to hate me. That's me currently, by the way. It cost me 400 quid to get everything sort of flattened last year. I don't want to do it again. But yeah, I used to have a beautiful garden. I now can't do it. It's a sore spot. But people shouldn't have to live in squalor in overgrown gardens, which probably is against their tendency if they're not in a council house.
Yeah, even in the council house, you've got to have a certain level of making it look decent.
Yeah.
So,
So it's like,
but no,
what?
you shouldn't be penalised for trying to make your life easier.
No. And it's like, if these are things you can't do, then by definition, that's the things you need help with. And my plan is to get a cleaner.
Same. Just because I can change the bedding, put a wash on, hang up a wash, and put a wash away, and I'm absolutely drained for at least 2 hours.
I
Like
just,
people don't realise the physical pain that it and energy that it takes
I just don't
when
think
you've got
it
that.
should all be on my husband to do, because he doesn't do it all. He does what he can and what he's got time to do, as well as working full time and being my carer. But he can't
Yeah,
do everything, and he will mostly ignore the rest that he hasn't done. Whereas I can see it, because it's things
Yeah.
I would have done.
Well, it's also the amount things cost. It's like I've got some of those squidgy foam handles to put on forks and things if your grip's not great. And those were like three foamy things for like 20 quid. It's like a bit of foam with a bit of rubber on the end. But where else are you getting it from? There's an enormous premium on things for people with disabilities. Like if you've had to regularly replace things like tubey grips, something as simple as that, that can add up really, really quickly. And there's also lots that are completely useless. Like, has anyone else ever had a knee support that doesn't actually allow your knee to bend?
Yeah,
And doesn't fit any human being who's ever lived. It's like, but you don't know that. You can't go into a shop and say, please, can you give me the good one that actually functions? You may have to buy multiple ones that are useless first before you find the one that does actually work. And that all costs money, believe it or not. You can't like return a used tubey grip.
yeah. I mean, over the years, I've used them for like RSI and things for years, and now I have full ones with metal supports. But they're not cheap, and yeah, every so often you have to replace them.
yeah. When I went for my MRI on my knee and the doctor gave me some cream for the inflammation and stuff, she was like, you can she's like, get yourself a knee support. And she's like, we have to recommend these ones, which are just, like the bandagey material that stretches. She's like, they're cheap, but she's like, her words were, they're absolute shit. And she got her phone out and she's like, get this one off of Amazon instead. It cost me like 15 quid, but it actually works pretty well and does what it's meant to. So yes, it's cost me more money than I wanted, but it actually works.
Yeah, that's quite important. It's like all these things that might be cheap as chips, they're not going to be good quality. They're probably not going to work. And usually you have to go through the disabled community to see what has worked and what hasn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. There should be, again, more openness and things like that, but there often isn't. And I mean, there could be things that people are a bit embarrassed to talk about, or it could just be you don't know where to find other people who are using it. But often some of these things can end up saving money in the long run. Like if you've got a leg brace, that's probably not cheap. But if it means you are able to move around more than you could have anyway, that could save on physio later. Or like a Motability car might be cheaper than someone getting taxis all the time. There's,
Most likely will be.
well, yeah, the cost of a taxi.
Yeah.
I'm always slightly outraged. It's like it's how much? That's like how many pounds a minute? What? What?
If you can get one
How
in the
dare
first
you?
place.
Yeah, it's there's things that yes, they cost money, but if they improve someone's quality of life, which is what we're talking about at the end of the day, even if you don't care about people's quality of life, if this medication or this treatment means that someone doesn't have to be in hospital for months on end in rehab getting better or recovering, then that saves the country money because the last thing anyone wants is to be in hospital when they don't have to be.
No, or sort of living a harder life if they don't have to be. Like, even if they don't work, or if they do, why would you want them to suffer?
Yeah.
It,
And the thing is, if they're people that complain about it that much, if they was in that situation themselves or one of their family members was, they would change their tune so quickly.
yeah,
I think a lot of it is,
they don't think it's going to happen to them.
yeah. And I think people that don't understand it, and it's probably going to sound really bad to say it, It's that they're ignorant of the situation, that they don't understand it. It's that whole like ignorance is bliss. I don't know, it's not my problem, but it could be your problem.
quite easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And unless you've experienced it or you're very close to someone who has experienced it, I don't think you do really know. It's like you can understand the concept of being in pain. You know, most people have been in pain at some point or another. But until you've been in pain all the time and it doesn't stop and it doesn't get better and nothing you do improves it, until you've been in that situation, you can't understand the situation of someone with chronic pain because you've just not been there. And the exhaustion of never you don't get a day off for good behavior. It's like, oh, you've been paying all year, so you get your 3 weeks off and plus bank holidays or whatever. It's there, it's not going. And it is really hard to understand, to be honest. Like, I didn't get it until I was in a situation, and I only get my specific situation. Like, I can empathize with other people and I can understand elements of it, but I don't know what it's like to be anyone else.
No. And people just need to be a little kinder and realize that they don't know what it's like to be other people, and that maybe they don't understand the situation, and that's okay. But you don't need to demonize someone for it.
No, no, I think sometimes it can be a knee-jerk thing, and I think there are people who will say absolutely abhorrent things, and sometimes I don't think they've realised what they've said. Or, sometimes even people are trying to be supportive and they'll say something and it's like, oh, that didn't come across how you intended at all. And it's also that thing over the internet where it's a faceless person you're aiming at. It's very, well, how dare they, this, that, and the other, and outrage. And I've never taken a penny in benefits my entire life. And why should children get to eat? Because I went hungry once when I was 10. And what? These arguments don't even make sense. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and
Oh,
I mean, we are talking about like the basics of quality of life as well. It's like, don't begrudge people that. You're able, even if you're working a crap job, which isn't paid enough, that's not the disabled person's fault. That's your employer and the government's fault. Aim your anger where it should be.
yeah. I mean, they're saying they want to cut the money because they're spending too much on it. Why should people in charge be paid the hefty salary that they get and the bonus, and certain companies, the bonuses that they get? You don't need that many millions of money to live on. I'm sorry. If you had a bit of a pay cut yourself, maybe live like a working class person, you wouldn't be sitting there thinking it's okay to treat people like that either.
No, and we
Our,
do
our
offer
local
worse
MP
pension.
takes minimum wage and anything else goes to local charities.
I love that.
Yeah,
But also, she's come out to say, do you know what? If these cuts do happen, it's absolutely terrible. There's so many people are going to be affected. And I think that's the thing when you can look at figures and forget those are all real people who have real families and real lives. And when you can say, oh, it's just others, it's just people like that, it's just strangers, it's just this, it's just that, you're reducing someone to being a stereotype and being less than human. And that's if people are able to do that, and if that's seen as being okay, we really need to look at where we are as a society genuinely. Because for people to openly see some of the things I'm sure we've all seen in the comments section and not even think, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't wish painful specific death on people I don't even know. It's when did that become a thing? It's
yeah,
scary, really
not
scary.
acceptable. Please don't do it. But I think we should probably wrap up.
Mm.
Otherwise, we're going for hours.
Yeah, we will go on for
Yeah,
hours.
easily.
And this isn't edited. It's as we said it. But we would love to know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, genuinely, please let us know what's your experience, what's happening with you, any tips you've got, anything like that. 'Cause now really is a time to sort of work together with others. So we're not just saying that, please give us lots of tasty bits of engagement. Genuinely, we want to hear what's happening for you as well.
And if you've come this far, thank you for listening to our ramblings.
I'm sure we'll come back and do it again.
Yep, we'll see you next time something terrible's in the news.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.